Sorry, I had to make a funny face.
I feel like you have to strike a pose after the intro song. It's not even a song, it's the intro reverb
voice or volume.
So we just start voguing after this from now on. Got it.
Vogue. Anyways, hi.
Yes.
Welcome back to the Age of Geek podcast. We're doing our part 2 of The Last of Us
Two fungi,
TV
two
show
furious.
recap.
How the fungus
Two
got her
fungi,
groove
two
back.
I think that's gonna be this episode's name, Robert. It's just so good.
Two fungus, two furious, right?
Two fungi, two furious.
If you
Two
guys
fungi,
didn't
two
notice, our
furious.
last episode on the first 5 episodes was
What?
Fungus Among Us. Because I was reading an article and it called the first episode that. And I'm like, is this real? It's not. It's not real.
Oh.
But now it's our real episode.
Oh my
So
goodness.
go us.
But yes, we are back this week to talk more about the show because we just couldn't stop talking last week and it was long and we still have like half the show to cover. So Marlee is back. That's me.
Steph.
Collin.
Robert.
Hey, look, we did it in the circle again.
Like
Hey.
The opposite way.
clockwise.
And somehow it put us in the exact same circle.
Did you do that on purpose, Collin?
I didn't actually.
Spooky.
Ooh.
I know.
That's really
It
wow.
was meant to be.
Mhm.
Aw.
It was the fungus.
Among Us.
I think it's because Steph always comes in last, and it always puts Steph right up in that area right there.
It's because she's always late.
I have not much to say about that. It's great.
Oh, goodness. Well, we left off after talking about episode 5, which was like the whole Kansas City
Henry and Sam.
Sam story arc. So now we're getting into episode 6, which is the is that one called? What is that one called? It's the one where they're in Jackson, and it's called Kin.
My husband moved my cheat sheet of characters.
Oh,
Now
he
I'll be-
made you a cheat sheet, or
No,
did
I
Aw.
made it.
oh?
And now I will be calling everyone the
I was
wrong
gonna be
name.
really impressed for a minute there.
No. he
I
did
mean,
not.
I just have Wikipedia open in the next tab.
So does episode 6 opens up with the indigenous couple, right?
Yes.
Yes.
What's
What?
that woman's name?
What are there?
'Cause
do you
I
ha-
would-
Do you not have it?
No, I don't have the cheat sheet up.
Oh, I thought you found it.
No, because I would die for her. Was just such a lovely, like, you made them soup.
I love the fact that she tells a story, and Ellie's like, "Is it supposed to be scared?" She's like, "It scared him."
And the husband comes back and he's just like, why would you do this? And she's just like, you don't tell me what to do. Not here.
Let me see if I can find the names. Maybe, maybe not. We'll keep going. What is this?
Let's keep going.
I don't know. I can't find it fast enough. Maybe someone else will be more skillful.
See,
Working
if
on
I
it.
had my damn cheat sheet.
But yeah, I thought this was a really interesting way to open up this episode and this next story arc, because these two characters were brand new to the show. They definitely were not in the game. And even getting to Jackson itself never happened. They got to the water/power plant outside of Jackson that helps create their energy and power that they need back at the city. So yeah, Robert, this was like a really cool thing that I'm sure you had no idea how special it was that we got to actually go into Jackson and see that city and how it's thriving, because you don't see Jackson until The Last of Us Part 2 video game. You start off in Jackson. Spoilers alert. So you make it back.
Oh no!
Oh no, we lost to Marlee.
She's been absorbed by the Borg.
Yeah, she has.
Yeah. And the names are Marlin and Florence. Are the indigenous couple.
She's the hero of Last of Us. Marlee's
Am I
Marlee's
back?
back.
You're
Hey,
back.
welcome back. You probably explained a whole bunch of stuff before, but we didn't.
Where did I leave off? Where did I cut off?
Part 2,
explaining
the Ginnons and
Jacksonville.
Jackson.
Okay, you didn't miss much.
Spoiler
and-
alert, and that's
Yeah.
not where you stopped.
Yeah, okay. Because I mean, at the very end of the TV show, you see Ellie and Joel make it back to Jackson. They're outside overlooking Jackson, so you already know that they make it back there. But anyway,
And
so
just
it's
so everyone know, it's Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and not Jacksonville in Florida. Just want to clarify that the snow isn't from Florida.
I don't think it's
Really?
actually Jackson Hole, is it? Is it? I thought it was just Jackson. I thought it was like a new settlement that they made.
Yeah, it's just Jackson.
Okay.
Just Jackson, yeah.
But they're in Wyoming.
They are in Wyoming. You're not wrong. But
Jackson,
anyway,
Wyoming.
But anyways, so
Fine.
it's
But still not Florida.
No. This episode did play out a little bit different, but I really like the changes that they made because some of it just wasn't necessary in the game. Of course, it's going to be different. But it was still fun to meet this couple. Did anyone find the names of them yet?
Yeah,
The characters?
Marlon and Florence.
And Marlon.
Okay, perfect. So it was fun to meet them, even though it was very brief, but it was just kind of like a fun stepping stone and for a way to kind of get us to the next area.
It led me on a Google search to find out, because I really feel like Indigenous people are probably going to be the best people to survive an apocalypse. So then I searched for apocalyptic stories written by Indigenous people. So do that as well and read stories. That's my little LeVar Burton boost for everyone right now.
I love how they were just like, we're just, oh gosh. I love how they were just like, what are you talking about? We've been here since forever. We haven't moved around or anything.
They were just adding levity to the darkness. So
they also added a very grounded nature as well, because they were just like, you could see that they were hunters, or that Marlon was hunting, and had the rabbits out hanging outside the cabin, and Florence was just fixing soup in the kitchen, and they're just hanging out. And then Joel and Ellie just burst onto the scene.
I know. I thought that was a really cool reveal. So instead of seeing Joel and Ellie make it to that cabin, we just saw Marlon and Florence.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Marlon and Florence doing their thing, and then all of a sudden, Marlon comes back, and then he's
surprise.
We're not. Someone's here, isn't there? And so you're like, oh, Joel and Ellie made it.
Which, if you think about it, makes an interesting juxtaposition against the Bill and Frank episode, where we get that, and then we see Joel and Ellie coming into their town or their little suburban area, as opposed to they're just here already and just starting off.
Yeah.
And we catch Florence's, I was going to say reaction, but her complete lack of reaction. Just like, yeah, this is just what happens. And Marlon's like, oh, there's somebody here. And the fact that they were so nonchalant about it was just was something that caught me as strange. Just like, so two strangers just show up in your house. You're just like, cool.
Here's
it happens every other week. It's a day ending in Y. We're good.
Yep. Just your average day out here in the freezing
middle of nowhere,
Wyoming.
I know. It makes you wonder if there's been very many visitors before. Or did they just totally sidestep that area completely and Florence and Marlon kind of go unnoticed?
That's interesting, especially since you have so many people looking for just shelter or food. And we've seen in the urban areas where they have ransacked everything possible that wasn't hidden away like Joel's stash in the convenience store. But, here they're just, okay, yeah, we go and hunt rabbits, and, we get water from the river down here, and it's just, life is just great on the farm.
And P.S., there's a bunch of dead bodies by the river. It's fine.
Yeah, the river of death.
Which is actually kind of funny, because I have a friend who lives in Alberta. He says, yeah, my drinking water comes from that river. So hearing it referred to as the river of death is really kind of funny.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
great.
It makes you double, like, think twice about, like, should I drink this or not?
And then they start their journey to Jackson, the settlement.
Yes. And but the thing is, though, like, they still don't know where they're going. They just know that there's some hostile people. And so they're on the lookout. They're trying to be careful. And sure enough, some people find them and basically make them, well, they test to make sure they're not infected by bringing, like, a dog to sniff them.
I knew that Ellie was going to be okay, but watching that dog sniff Ellie, I was like holding my breath.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
not
totally.
knowing. I'm just like, well, the jig is up. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
that German Shepherd's going to rip her to pieces.
Right.
Oh yeah. Well, and that was also a little bit different too from the game. So there was a lot of aspects of this episode that you're like, what are they going to do here? Like we didn't know what was going to happen. So yes, we find out that they're actually friendlies, but they have to act hostile to newcomers because you kind of have to be in an apocalyptic world. You have to be wary.
Yeah, that's like something that I don't think I've ever considered. I mean, until like apocalyptic stories started becoming more and more popular. Because you think that you'd want to band together and create community, which you do in the long run, but you also have to be so weary of the people that surround you, which we will continue to talk about in episode 8.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like pretty much the entire premise of the Walking Dead series, by the way.
It is. And it's interesting to see how they handle this differently, because Walking Dead was just like, you have something and people just show up. And your first instinct is, so we're going to kill you. And here it's like, we need to check you. We don't trust you, but the dog says you're okay, so you must not be all bad. We'll let you into the little secret community. And, I'm surprised it wasn't like, an old Batman episode where they got to knock them out and then take them to a secret location, and then, like, you wake up in the town.
Right.
Well, and that's because Joel said the magic word.
Tommy.
He said Tommy. And
He could have been talking about the White Ranger.
It was very convenient that Maria was one of the people on that scouting patrol, whatever. Yeah. And we find, is married to Tommy, who is Joel's brother. And so that was definitely how she got to, or how they got into the city. And there's a heartfelt reunion between brothers, and that was really nice to see. But you could also, I thought it was kind of interesting, if you watch Ellie's face in that reunion, you can see that she's kind of like, wait a second. No, Joel's mine. Like, he's my family. And like, I don't think she realizes it yet, because I mean, it's still pretty early on, but I think she's starting to realize, like, no, wait a second, that's my buddy. And to see her, or to see him act that way with someone else, it's like kind of like that twinge of like jealousy almost.
I missed that, but I did catch Tommy's reaction, which was Joel has finally found the one thing, his grail, basically. He's been like, Tommy, Tommy, Tommy for the entire trip. Tommy, your cargo, Tommy, Tommy. And then Tommy sees Joel, and he's kind of got that look like, what are you doing here? Like, never in a million years expected him to come out here. And he's like, I'm here to save you, but you doing all right?
Well,
I guess I'm just going to pull up stakes and head on back home now. But it was just really weird to see Joel's reaction of just relief to see Tommy, and Tommy's reaction of wariness of, why are you here? And who's that?
Well, and if you think about Joel's life up till then, he wasn't. It's made clear throughout the episodes that he's not a good person.
He's done some bad things.
He's done some bad things
to survive.
He has been in dark places. He has not been the same since Sarah. So Tommy probably, as much as he didn't want to leave his brother, also is probably like, thank God I'm kind of away from that.
True.
That's some negativity that I don't necessarily need in my life, because I'm ready to move on and start a family, get married. And Joel is just stuck in his dark
Grief.
area, his darkness.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, as much as I do think Tommy was happy to see Joel, it's also like, well, I guess what now? And what are you with this cargo? Are you bringing me back into the crap that you were doing before? The
Bring her
Ravager
back into the
stuff.
life. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and especially where later on in the episode, Joel is basically like, okay, I'm dropping her off and I want you to handle it now. I want
Mm-hmm.
you to take, because they're still trying to figure out where the Fireflies are. They don't know yet where to go, but they do know that Tommy used to be a Firefly. And so that's kind of their lead. And so they're like, okay, well, where do you think they are now? And he says they might be at the college, which is like the College of Eastern Colorado, which I don't know is that a real college?
No,
No? Okay.
I don't think so.
I know I didn't think so either, but they do so they're like, yeah, they're probably there. And so then he's like, okay, well, you take her the rest of the way for me. Like, you know how to get there and I'm done. And there was definitely this, I feel like this episode was super important to the rest of the story because it was a huge turning point between Joel and Ellie and their relationship. Because it really could have gone either way. Joel could have been like, yep, I'm done, I'm out. But then I think as he was kind of realizing that this life that they could have if they, stayed in Jackson, or if, all sorts of possibilities, he wants to be hopeful for the future. And he also wants to see Ellie to be safe. Like she's cargo, but at the same time, like, he wants to make sure that she's in good hands.
Well, and he's probably also worried about how attached he is getting to her as well.
That too.
He wants to protect himself.
Yeah, he's not ready to admit yet.
Exactly, yeah. And in getting ready, and in doing so, when he basically says, well, Tommy's going to take you the rest of the way, I love that Ellie finally has an emotional break of sorts and is like, everyone in my life has left me. My parents, friends, and now you're leaving me. And she just, has a very brief but very emotional outburst. And, Joel's expression of just like, oh, like he had no idea, couldn't fathom that she would have this kind of reaction. And that as he's trying to pull more away, she's trying to gather a little closer.
Yeah. One of my favorite things of the series happens in this episode. And again, I'm going to give a little warning. I'm going to talk about periods. So if you want to skip a minute or two ahead. Okay. The fact that Maria gives Ellie, I know, I'm just putting it out there. The fact that Maria gives Ellie a menstrual cup, it makes so much sense. It's not even that big of a thing. She looks at the instructions. She looks at the cup. She says, this is weird. I think she swears about it. Mm-hmm. And they are weird. They're weird as hell. But if you are in an apocalypse, a reusable product would be the best thing you could have. And so it was just like, yay. I don't know. And I just thought it was cute, a wholesome thing that another woman would realize someone would need in these situations. That Joel's not going to give her a diva cup.
No,
let me tell you about your blossoming womanhood.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. I don't know. Maybe that should have been one of the blooper reels.
Oh, it would have been great. So it just made me happy.
But Maria also gave Ellie something else.
Yes.
Insight into Sarah.
Yes. At this point, Ellie didn't know about Sarah.
Yeah.
Nope. And her reaction to, he had a daughter, and just that kind of revelation for her was just like, oh, I need to process this, because it changed a lot. I think it changed a lot of how she perceived Joel at that point, as I have an idea now outside of Tess what he's lost.
Yeah, she begins to understand.
This makes sense why.
Yeah.
He's so off guarded and trying to keep her as cargo versus anything else. But at this point, Joel's also got a lot more respect for her the things that she can do. And
Yeah, I would agree.
I think
Well,
in that moment though, when she's talking about, when Ellie's talking about Tommy to Maria, I don't think Maria knew all the things that Tommy had done necessarily.
Probably not.
It looked like she was slightly caught off guard when she said, well, Tommy was with him during a lot of that time. Like, he did those things as well.
Well, to the point of Tommy breaking away from Joel intentionally and basically creating a new life, he basically, I can see where he would selectively edit what he would tell somebody, especially he's in a relationship with in a community, to not make him seem like
Right.
a monster and somebody that's like the entire community is going to be like, watch him out of the side of your eye, because you never know when that side of him is going to pop out. So I could see him downplaying that completely.
Well, and I think all of Jacksonville shows this juxtaposition of this normalcy, this life, this place where people can gather together and watch movies on the weekend. And then you have Ellie and Joel, who are literally outsiders, but I also don't know if either of them can see themselves in a place like this because they haven't been in places like this before.
But Joel has.
I mean, not for a long time.
Not for a
He
long
was
time,
in
no, but I
the
mean,
QZ, and that was before he did all the things. And they've been on the
Yeah.
road, killing people, seeing people die, being in these dire situations. And then it's like this, like, smack in the face with normalcy. And it's like, is this someplace I can be?
So I have a question that maybe was answered to some degree in the game. Do they ever give like a rough timeline of how long it takes them to get from Boston to Salt Lake City?
It takes it's a good like 3 seasons because it starts, I want to say Boston starts in the summer, if I'm remembering correctly, and then because they kind of have the game broken up into seasons
Okay.
where they have summer and then fall and winter, and then it kind of goes a little bit past that. So I mean, it's several months.
Okay, because I mean, it's hard to get a good sense of scale. Like, I know that
Yeah.
driving from A to B is this long, but I know that they've also got to deal with all the stuff that we didn't see in the episodes, like all the interstitial stuff, where what kind of roving bands do they have to avoid, or where do they run into infected, where do they have to hide out for a couple of days to just build up the supplies for the trip. So knowing that it was some not winter season when they left Boston and was early fall, the onset of winter by the time they got to Jackson, was just kind of like, what is the timing we're talking about here?
Yeah, I'd say it's definitely less than a year, but it's
Okay.
more than 6 months.
Okay.
Is my guess. And to what you were saying too a minute ago, Steph, about Joel and Ellie maybe not being able to like see themselves in this community. I had a thought too that perhaps I think Joel was more willing to be like, no, I'm gonna leave Ellie here. This is where she deserves to be. I don't, because of my past and my things that I've done. I don't deserve this. So I'm going to leave her here in good hands and give her a good chance to grow up in a happy, thriving community. And I am better off alone anyway. So I'm just going to drop her off and leave. And he has that attitude quite like for the good first half of the episode until because we start seeing him having more panic attacks, which is new to the show, or new from the game. Like that didn't really happen in the game. So it was kind of interesting to see how they were portraying the inner struggle that Joel was having.
It's hard to get Klonopin in the apocalypse.
Yeah. And so even the conversation that Joel has with Tommy about like how he's had nightmares, and all he knows is that when he wakes up, he feels like he's lost something. And he, and just kind of admitting to that, as well as after he's had a panic attack, he like looks up into the crowd, like, because he goes outside and he like looks up into the crowd and sees a woman a young woman who looks very similarly to his daughter, or what his daughter would look like if she was still alive and at that age. So 20 years later. And then he kind of like glimpses her and is like, is that Sarah? But then she turns her face and it's not her, obviously. And she has like a little girl with her. And so I think it kind of gave Joel like, wow, like I could have had this life. This could have been me. But again, like he is still haunted. He's haunted by losing Sarah and his choices. And so he's decided he's not going to do it. He's not going to take Ellie any farther. He's done. And he goes to tell Ellie. And they have that really big conversation, which is such a pivotal moment in the game and the show.
But then he shows up.
Yes. And
then
so they definitely have that chat, and she's like, look, everybody I have cared for has either died or left me. And do you guys know what the next line is on that one?
No.
I don't know if I can say it because it says the F word and I don't say the F word.
You just got like expletive deleted.
Don't judge me, but yes, it's like everybody effing except for you. And so she says, don't tell me that I'd be safe with someone else, because the truth is I would just be more scared. And so that right there is just like a huge moment for them. You know, his eyes are open. Joel's eyes are opened, I think, a little bit more into the impact that their relationship has had in the last few months that they've been together.
Mm-hmm.
But he still walks away, and you're kind of left thinking, is he gonna show up, or is Tommy gonna be the one that's meeting her at the horses to leave the next day? And then, like Steph said,
then he shows up, and then he gets stabbed. So good job, good going, Joel.
That
somebody had to catch that bat.
Part,
yeah, I know you had a big problem with the college part because they shortened it a lot from the game.
It was so freaking fast.
How much different was the game experience in the college than the 10, 15
it
minutes
was a whole chapter, so
add
40,
about
2
20
not 42 hours.
Yeah.
40 minutes to 2 hour gameplay, I would say.
Wow.
I'd say add about 20 clickers and 3 bloaters and
there were
a whole bunch
zombies.
of looting.
Okay.
And one of the worst gaming, like most stressful gaming mechanics of all time, when you're upside down and trying to shoot clickers that are coming after you.
That was way early on.
Was
that was with Bill.
Okay.
Yeah, because he fell into one of Bill's traps and got held upside down. and you had to shoot upside down. It was so hard.
This sounds like the world's most frustrating game.
It's
challenging. It is challenging.
Okay, challenging is probably a much better way of putting it. But it just sounds like the first 7 or 8 times you would die doing this would just be like, I hate this game.
Yeah,
you're like, you're up to die again. Let's do it.
Oh my goodness.
So,
go ahead.
I found something on Reddit.
Let's hear it.
That is a map of the routes that were traveled. At least per the game. And so here's the map. Sorry for anyone listening on audio version, but showing their exact route over to Jackson. So, and then Salt Lake, Denver, they traveled roughly 3,553 miles.
Wowza.
Okay.
So quite a bit of ways to get there, and it's roughly took about a year of travel is what they're saying.
Yeah, that would make sense if they started in summer, ended in about springtime, around a year mark.
Yeah. So Joel does get injured. That does happen. However, in the game, it's slightly different, and I'm glad that they changed it because it was very cringy. They do get attacked while they're at the college, and they had just discovered that they found that clue that said the Fireflies had left and are in Salt Lake at St. Mary's Hospital. So that's where we finally get the clue of where of Salt Lake City. And then while they're escaping and fighting off these raiders, Joel gets pushed off of a 2 or 3 story window or balcony and falls on
That's right.
rebar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh. So getting stabbed with a baseball bat, a shard of baseball bat, that was a little bit easier to watch. I'll be
Also,
honest.
can we talk about how the first rule of stabbings is you don't pull the stabbied out of
Right?
your body?
First aid, people.
Joel, get your together.
Jeez.
What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah.
Joel's first aid certification was expired by 20 years, apparently.
He's not an Eagle Scout.
I just don't get why those guys have this huge vendetta when they were just gonna kill the guy too.
It doesn't. It's apocalyptic justice. It doesn't
And
make
it's
sense.
and it's somebody who took away somebody from the community.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just some random guy and girl that, for all they know, attacked the raiding party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
'Cause,
and
it's whoever
also,
told the story when they got back to the town.
True.
well, and also a raiding party, in very typical times like that too. I mean, it's nothing's typical about it, let's be honest. But if they see two lone travelers, and there's a whole bunch of them, and they have supplies and weapons, it's pretty easy to overtake them and steal all their stuff. So they probably saw Joel and this child as an
Easy
opportunity.
pickings.
Yeah.
Two
So,
of them, 4 of us. We got this.
but
Yeah.
we know that leading into, well, I guess we don't know at this point because we have to wait a whole episode to find out what happens to Joel.
So I was like, Joel's dead. So this is going to be really awkward for Ellie to have to get to Salt Lake City by herself. And that's where I ended that episode. I'm just like, well, Joel's dead.
Yeah.
Dead.
It's
Joel.
the last of her now. So, all right. So game on.
Oh man. So going into episode 7, this one's called Left Behind, which is the same name as the DLC that this whole episode they took from. So real quick, interesting. So I think they did a really good job again with this episode in showing some more of Ellie's backstory. Because in the DLC, though, the only thing that I wish they had shown a bit more in the TV show was some more of the parallels, the back and forth between Ellie's past and what Ellie was dealing with in that moment of trying to help Joel and keep him alive. Because what happens is she takes the injured Joel and they go to a mall, and she holds him up into a place, into like a store, and she's on the search for first aid supplies. And so she goes through the mall and tries to find stuff. Whereas on the parallel,
She's doing everything with Riley in the mall.
in a mall. So I thought that would have been such a cool thing to see in the show, but they decided not to. They just focused like pretty much all on the past stuff.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of that episode? Especially not knowing the DLC.
Well, the girl who plays Riley, I should know who her name is, but she's
Storm Reed.
Yes. She is in Euphoria as Zendaya's younger sister. And she's just phenomenal. I think Euphoria and this are the only 2 things I've seen her in, and both of the acting she's great. So I was excited to see her. She's a cute
You
girl.
didn't see her in A Wrinkle in Time?
Okay, I never saw A Wrinkle in Time, but I read it when Wrinkle in Time came out, planning on watching the show because of Ava DuVernay and but again, I just need to go back and do it. But I did
She's
read
been
the
in
book.
a couple of interesting. She was she was not Deadshot, Bloodsport's daughter in the Suicide Squad. So the guy who replaced Deadshot in the second movie, apparently was his daughter. She was also in a movie called The Invisible Man, starring Elizabeth Moss and Aldous
I remember
Hodge. She
seeing
was
ads
the
for
daughter
that.
in that as well. So I mean, she's been in a few things that I've seen. So seeing her in this was like, oh, I know that person.
Sure.
And I think that she did a great job of being Ellie's counterpart / foil / best friend / proto love, all mashed up in one very complicated relationship. And I just loved watching the 2 of them be kids for a night, and that was really fun.
You have to have a tough outer shell to be like Ellie's friend, I feel like. It's not going to be like, let's go try on outfits and like it's yeah, it's a tougher atmosphere, and they played on each other really well. Their chemistry together was great. And it was, like you're saying, it was just kind of it was charming. It was super charming to be in a um I want to say hotel in a mall together and have free reign of it. I thought it was funny when they did the Victoria's Secrets window and they're like, why would people wear these? And I'm like, I agree. The carousel was really sweet. Yeah, it showed a side of Ellie that we hadn't seen before, and then did give us insight to first how she got bit and why she why she is the way she is in a lot of ways.
But one of the other things I really loved seeing was when they first get there, and Riley is like, "Go here, go here, go here, and wait." And Ellie's like, "Why?" And she's like, "Go here, go here, go here,
Yes.
go do." And the look of wonder and awe, which we see occasionally in Ellie, like we saw it when um, they were getting in the truck at Bill and Frank's. She's like, it's like a spaceship, and just the awe of like a child who's never grown up and had a car just in their day to day that we take for granted at this point, or a mall that we take for granted as I can go to the store and pick up anything I need, and it's full of lights and wonders and all these magical things that for somebody who's never had that experience, I think that Bella Ramsey did such a fine job of showing that sense of not just awe, but just wonder. How can this be like an escalator?
Yes,
Wait,
she
they
was so
move?
charming on that. It was just so and it's so interesting because that's something I don't know if teenagers hang out at malls these days, but that's something I did as a teenager. I hung
Mhm.
out at malls. I like doing and these kids are doing that, but there's so much more novelty to it because it's not something they can do.
And the fact that Riley had been there long enough to kind of find all of the ins and outs and all the things that were she thought would be special for Ellie
Yeah.
Yeah.
was just so
Very well
sweet and
thought out.
touching.
Yeah.
And she's it's like, how long have you been here? A while. But just going through and seeing all the things that we take for granted as, yeah, we got these stores, they've got things, and we go to the store, we buy the thing, and we walk out.
And
And
Mortal
and,
Kombat.
and Mortal Kombat, and
Yes.
watching them play that game, like, shut up, no way, and
Yeah.
the I can actually touch this thing and play the game, and the sheer joy of, well, how do we do this? And breaking into the quarter machine to get in and go, oh, we got this covered. And just the fun of watching them play that. And apparently they ad-libbed some of playing that game for the episode. Just like,
That's cute.
we weren't supposed to really do this, but we did it anyway. We actually played the game, and it's like, oh, well, that's kind of fun.
Yes. No, and they do that in the video game too. Riley kind of takes her on this tour around the mall and showing her all these different fun things. And they were like spot on. I mean, they combined the last two where they had the scary like Halloween shop and and like they put on like masks, and then the music and like dancing and stuff, because those were two separate events.
Mm.
But I'm actually glad that they kind of meshed some of them together, because it would just make it made a really long episode. But it was really fun to see it all come together on screen and to see these two actresses together, and just like, yeah, like seeing their chemistry and like all of that, and just kind of seeing where it was going to take us. And like, I mean, I knew what was going to happen. So were you? I know. Like, I knew that that's exactly how it was all going to play out, but it was
Yeah,
still.
Collin, and you haven't played the DLC, so did you
I
know
haven't
that's
played the
when she
DLC.
got bit?
Yeah, did you know?
I had no clue. I assumed that's what was going to happen as soon as they showed the creepy doll store, and which I'm still very confused about how this is a Firefly like base of not like base, but like a sub base of operations, and how they didn't clear every single store.
Right? Yeah, I thought that was kind
I
of
would have
interesting
thought that
too.
they would have like scoured that like store by store, and it wasn't like it was like deeply hidden inside a store. Like you walk in, and it's just like off on this corner. Like,
And he'd been there a while.
yeah,
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
so
and in
here's the
the
thing: could it have been that it had been a storehouse for them of sorts, and they had cleared it, but between the time that they had done that clearing and recruited Riley, they're just like, it should be okay. It's in this part of town. We've cleared around here. Everything should be okay. Although it looked like the clicker had been there, or the creature had been there
he'd been
for
there
a
for a
while.
while.
like he's
Because I mean,
already like
the ornate,
embedded into the wall.
yeah, I
Yeah,
was gonna
he
say
was
the vines
he was
there
growing into the
were
wall.
not small.
Yeah.
Well, and it's definitely interesting. I mean, they had to do something to get a clicker there at the mall at the scene
The
of the
carousel,
crime,
because clickers love carousels.
because in the game they were because they were like I said, Ellie and Riley were blasting music in the music store and dancing and having so much fun that the noise attracted and it was actually several zombies. It wasn't just one. And
Well,
they
the one
had
thing
to,
that
yeah.
that
So
plays
it's
into something that
yeah.
I was concerned with was they turned lights on in an otherwise dark zone and nothing responded or
Well,
no one.
right? Is it just because it was in the middle of the night and maybe no one happened to be walking by at that
Well,
moment?
not even
But
that, but I
wouldn't be the
mean,
patrols and
it's bright. Yeah, there's going to be patrols. There's going to be somebody going, why is it light over there in the
Because
middle of
it
nowhere?
looked like it was like a glass ceiling in the middle of that mall.
But even so, I mean, some light's going to get out. I mean, even if it's not like, column of light, there's going to be something that is going to be noticeable in a completely dark city.
Yeah.
And somebody somewhere, because I mean, there should be some kind of patrol, some kind of watch. Where were they? Well, there was on my coffee break. I don't know. I was off doing something.
Yeah. But then it's not only the ending of the episode is sad, but also finding out that Riley put all of this together as basically her way to say goodbye to Ellie, as her way of like, hey, I'm leaving the Boston area. I'm moving on with the Fireflies, and I wanted to be able to like see you one last time. And
yeah.
that was really sad.
I think this episode too gave some insight about the Fireflies and how they are a controversial group. Because I think in the first episode, we see Fedra being in control and they're just bad, need to be fought against. But I think that there's a lot more nuance to both Fedra and the Fireflies, and neither one is, it's not black and white. One is not good, one is not bad. It's just the world that they live in now.
So, question for the kid who's not seen or not played the game or either of the games or any of the DLC. Do we ever see a Fedra colony or QZ that works? That's not like everything's martial, everything is it is
Nope.
this regimented, so it all looks like the Boston QZ.
Nope. Yep.
Okay.
And you know, you get to even meet a couple different kinds of groups of people in part 2, which is also just really interesting to see all the different types of communities that have evolved over the years. So
Okay.
that is definitely an interesting aspect of the game, and seeing how where everyone kind of ended up too.
All right.
Well, and I think it kind of makes sense too, considering where the QZs are. So they're in the higher populated parts of the country with lots more people. So I think they have to keep that law in order, compared to these other like
More rural areas.
Yeah.
I understand that, and I may have misstated what I was looking for. Not so much the martial law aspect, but it just seemed
There's like no
harsh.
joy. Yeah.
Yeah. There's just very harsh, very
It's just
stark reality.
yeah.
Mhm.
And so to hear that there are other enclaves of humanity that have different atmospheres seems like it would be realistic, because not every city is going to be the same, especially if you have different governing structures or different ruling castes or parties in each.
Mhm. And belief systems too.
Sure.
Yep.
I mean, we did get to see a taste of that, and we'll hit on that more as when we get into episode 8 with David's whole group and how it definitely had more religion involved with their group and what they believed in and were trying to create with their community. But yes, anything else about episode 7? Did you like, what did you think overall, Robert, of that episode? Like, did you think it fit? I mean, same
In
with
the
you,
same
Collin,
way that
because again, like, since you weren't familiar with the DLC, like, did you guys think it fit with the rest of the show? Should they have done a whole episode on it?
I think it fit. I don't. It didn't take me out of the show. It very much felt like a piece that was needed to explain a lot of unanswered questions
It adds composition
through earlier episodes, and exactly, adds composition. It's taking the story further. I didn't feel like it strayed too far from it at all.
And for me, it was a similar kind of breather and interlude that long time was with Bill and Frank. That not only, like Colin said, adds some background and composition to the story, but gives you a chance to just, okay, we've been dealing with, a lot of horrible people for the past 3 episodes, and now we get a break. And it's unexpected. And hearing how the parallels were done in the game of present versus past, I think I might have enjoyed seeing that, but I think seeing the past and how that formed Ellie's decision to not give up on Joel, because she could have just left him in the basement like, you're bleeding out, dude, deuces, and just took off.
And he told her to leave. He's like,
Yeah.
I'm gone. Don't waste your time trying to fix me and heal me. Leave
and her
me.
decision,
Go.
and her at the top of the stairs having that flashback, and that stealing her decision at the end of the episode to find something, help him. We don't quit. We don't give up.
Yeah.
And I think that was, we needed the interlude with Riley to build to that point where Riley was like, whether we've got 2 hours, 2 days, or 2 weeks, or however long it is, we don't quit. We don't give up on each other.
Yeah.
And we needed that. We needed to get through that episode with Riley to get to see her realize that she cares enough about Joel and that she needs him, and that now he needs her, and not to give up, and at least try, do what you can to keep going, and keep him going in this case. So for me, it was the same. Like I said, it was similar to having long time to have that kind of step back from what's going on right now and see something else.
Right, exactly. I would have been okay if they even if they had thrown in a couple of scenes to again show that parallel of what Ellie was dealing with in the present day. Even just to show her like maybe going through like a house or a mall or whatever and having to be stealthy and avoid infected or something, like even just to show a little bit more like of a challenge. But I don't know. I guess I just wish there would have been more. I feel like that episode, knowing how it was enacted in the DLC, I feel like it was just missing something. But at the same time, like I still like you, like you guys, you hit it right on the nose though. It was still a really good episode to kind of bring everyone up to speed, give some backstory, give some content, and explain why Ellie, like we finally get to know why she herself has been so guarded.
Yeah, and I think back to what Robert was saying about, there being that breather, right? Like this leading in right before episode 8, there's definitely a breather that's needed. Because you walk into just the hard hitting stuff, right? Like this is something that I wish Marvel would do a little better, because like in phase 4, you're just hit with sorrow and things just breaking down, and just kind of these not necessarily darker, like levels of darkness, but like just this level of like there's no hope. It just one thing after another just keeps knocking you down.
Well,
And
to
so
be
it's
fair,
nice to have little bits of.
to be fair, I mean, in Marvel's defense for that, I mean, Phase 4 was grief and trauma, and they didn't unfortunately come out and say this is what it's going to be until they were 2/3 of the way through it. But then in retrospect, you could look at it going all the way back to WandaVision, all the way through Wakanda Forever. That entire arc of movies was about grief, loss, trauma from people who died were brought back, people who died and didn't come back, all the things. And I think that I'm curious to see how they handle the Marvels, because it's going to be like Phase 5, but it's going to be Phase 4B as well, because there's a whole number of trauma issues to be dealt with in that movie as well. And that's going to end my Marvel chat. Thank you for coming to my TED
I was
Talk.
gonna say, this is actually the trauma of zombies and not the trauma of Marvels. So please stay on topic.
Infected, please.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, wow.
They-
Wow.
They prefer infected.
So real quick, I have to say too, before we get into episode 8. So I guess my other gripe with this episode, and even some of the prior episodes, was knowing that there was only going to be 9 total episodes this season, and knowing that there was still so freaking much that had to happen before that ending scene with Joel and Ellie in the hospital. I was nervous. I was like, they better not cut out too much. They already skipped a ton of the college. They already skipped this and this and this. That it's just like, okay, so we know episode 8 is going to be about David. So what's going to happen in episode 9? So for me, it made me a little bit nervous, but I feel like given what we were given, it ended up being okay. And I'm glad that they did a whole episode on David. So
Was David in the game
Yes.
short or long?
it was pretty long. It was
Yeah.
actually one of the most intense parts. I'm just going to jump ahead because we're like on the topic right now. That scene where Ellie gets away from him and is like going through the restaurant and trying to get away from him, and he's coming after her. That in the game is like this whole entire sequence where so in one of the features of the game, Joel and Ellie, they both have like this like kind of like supersonic hearing thing. It's not meant to be like science fiction-y. It's just kind of a game mechanic that if you kind of like listen for a sec and hold still, you can kind of detect where enemies are, especially if they're moving around. But the thing is, when you get to this part with David, he's also sneaking around and trying to find you. So he's quiet. So you don't know where he is because your supersonic hearing is not picking it up. And all of a sudden he comes behind you and you like freak out because you're not used to being hunted in the game. And so this is like really terrifying moment where you're being stealthy and trying to avoid him in the restaurant, and he is trying to come after you. And you also have to find moments where you sneak up on him. You have to stab him a certain number of times and then run away, and then try to find him again, stab, run away. And then you can finally do like the final battle, if that makes sense. So it's a lot
intense.
It's very intense. Meanwhile, the building is burning down around you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Scary.
we come across David and what's his face?
James.
And James is played by Nolan North, who is
No. Troy Baker.
Yeah, sorry. I knew that. I don't know why I said Nolan North.
Because they're very interchangeable, let's be honest.
They are. Okay. Yes. So James is played by Troy Baker, who is Joel in the video games.
Oh, okay.
So he got to come in and play a character, a creepy ass character. That whole faction is full of creepy ass human beings.
I mean, it's really only David and his cronies. Everyone else seemed pretty innocent.
I mean, I guess they did, but just them being involved in that cult makes them.
Well, they didn't know though. A lot of them didn't know what they were eating.
They knew. They didn't have suspicions.
I'm with Marlee on this one.
They didn't know. It was really only the cronies, the people that were like, he kept it hidden because he didn't want everyone to find out and freak out.
I
And
think
so that's why it was
everybody
very
who's in a
creepy.
cult has some suspicion that they're in a cult.
Okay, well let's start there. Was it a
It's really a
cult?
cult. No.
Yeah, I mean it was just a religious
Just because it's
group.
There's a
religious
charismatic
group.
leader. Look, do you want to go through it's called, is it the bite? I think it's the bite method that is all these things that contribute to a cult. Charismatic leader. They control your thoughts and what your actions. If you leave the faction, you are shunned. These are all big parts of being in a cult.
Okay, so
Yeah,
I'm
but
going to
there's
apologize before I say
Also,
this.
the guy full on smacked that girl and no one
They did
stood
nothing.
up. Like,
Okay,
those are
That is
people
cult.
that
because
are
they're all
completely
desperate and hungry.
brainwashed
They didn't
and
know what
just
to
like-
do.
Cult.
So I will just jump in here and say, not knowing where they were when this happened, I was like, are they just outside Salt Lake City now? Because like religious group, oh, they're going to Salt Lake City. So that was literally my first thought in this, and then it was like, no, I don't think that's the case, and then it just got weird.
Yeah.
And like the smack, like Collin said, it's like, okay, that happened, and nobody flinched. So it was like, oh well, all right, we're just gonna
Well,
let that go.
the game didn't really have all of these religious themes in this group or this cult, as Stephanie's calling it. Like, it wasn't really there really wasn't that thing. And plus, you didn't even really in the game, you didn't see women and children as part of this community. You saw it was because again, it's that same thing. It was very dehumanizing because they're just people that eventually Joel is going to have to kill a bunch of them to get to Ellie. And so they're just a bunch of just random bad guys, except for David. He's the only one that you really know. And I think, yeah, you do. He does call James by his name. So that's the only reason why you even know anything about this James guy. Because he doesn't do anything in the game except for go get the medicine like David asked him to. And then while he's off, David has that moment with Ellie and they're talking. And they also do this whole sequence where they have to actually fight off a bunch of infected and a big bloater. And so because they like survived together and fought together,
Another
Ellie
characteristic of a cult is not being able to question the leader.
But also like Ellie kind of starts to like maybe think, okay, maybe David is someone that I might be able to trust. But at the same time, she gets her medicine and goes. Like, she's like, okay, bye, I'm out. Not realizing that he's probably going to follow her and come after her.
Yeah, poor Ellie, it's her naivety that is just, she thinks she can get away and people won't follow her, and it just is not the case.
Especially in the snow, like there's going to be footprints. So I have to say though, at the very beginning of this episode and the beginning of this whole sequence in the game too, this is the first time you play as Ellie.
Oh yeah,
The whole time you're playing as Joel. And so you're playing as Ellie. She's trying to hunt, and you have a bow and arrow, which is awesome. That's an awesome feature, like weapon that she gets to have. And so she's trying to hunt for deer and everything. So that was definitely a really cool aspect of the game and a nice switch. And so, yeah. So anyways, we know she goes back to Joel. She's able to somehow figure out that he needs, like, she doesn't really know where to put the needle, but she's like, I'll just put it here.
Both my husband and I are like, where would you even put that needle?
And how would you know? Because again, I don't think Ellie got first aid certified back in Boston QZ, Fedra. Maybe she did.
I don't know. I feel like that's something that they'd maybe cover in that Fedra school.
Maybe.
I mean, what else are you learning about?
How to shoot guns?
Corrupt history? And...
No, she wasn't, because Joel had to teach her.
Yeah, they were just doing cardio. They were just running and doing drills, probably. I don't know.
Well, maybe it was one of the scenes that we didn't see that they learned how to do first aid or something.
Right. But anyways, so then we find out that David and his crew, David has like this fixation on Ellie. As he says in the show, I see it I have a darkness in me, and I see that same darkness in you. So creepy.
While we were watching, so when she's on her horse, she tells Joel, "You need to wake up. You need to fight. You need to get better." And then tries to move everyone away from him. Hops on the horse, and you automatically know the horse is going to die, and you're like, "Oh." And then the horse gets shot, and she goes over the top of the horse. And I turned to my husband, and I'm like, "How did they film that?" And then at the end of this episode, they showed
They
you how
showed
they
it.
filmed it on a mechanical horse, which is really interesting.
And stunt people. Yeah, no,
So
that
anyways,
was really cool.
I thought that was interesting. Yeah.
That was really cool. Yeah, and then we cut to Ellie's now in this cage being held, and David is basically being like, "Look, you know you want to be a part of this group because here's the thing. You and I think alike and blah blah blah." He does his whole thing and you're just like, "Okay, creep.
Oh, it's so creepy.
What are you doing?" And he basically tells her like he wants her to be like his wife of some sort. Like,
is a child bride's a sign of a cult? So, and you can tell he's so creepy.
I knew she was gonna say that.
Even before all this is happening, and he's explicitly saying, "I want you to be my wife," or whatever.
Did you just say be with me?
Be my leader. Okay. Yeah, or be my co-captain, essentially.
When he was still being nice to her before this all happened, there was something so off about him.
Mm-hmm.
There is something so menacing about how he is.
Did you guys get Robert, did you get that did you get those vibes from him? What did you think of David when he first was introduced?
When he was first introduced, I thought that he was a decent human being.
Even when his interactions with Ellie too. Like
at the
dead
very
deer.
first. Yeah, at that first was like he just seemed like there's more
doing
deer
what
here.
He needed to.
Yeah, he was trying to be personable, I think, is what came off to me as. He didn't get creepy until they got her back to the settlement, and at that point it was just like, nope, that just is wrong on so many. It feels, skeevy on so many levels, and it just, the shovel only goes down, and it just kept going down, and until she broke his fingers.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Get it, girl.
Yeah, they did so well with that entire scene though, and even the dialogue. Like it was like 99% accurate. It was
nice.
It was so cool to see that all played out.
When Bella Ramsey screams, "Ellie, my name's Ellie, tell Ellie
them it's the little girl
who broke your effing fingers." And it's like such a guttural scream. It's so chilling and so good.
Yes. And you finally, like, I feel like you really finally see, like, how capable and, like, how fierce and strong Ellie is.
I think you also see how bottled up she'd been. Ooh, and finally she gets to the point of, like, oh, I can let the monster out. And she has reason to.
And then you see that in Joel, because Ellie's magic words actually worked, probably the penicillin too. And he goes on this killing rampage. When he stabs the guy in the knee, oh my gosh, knee stuff scared, like they just bother the crap out of me. And you're just like, ah. And then he just goes ham on these guys. And you see how skilled he is at killing people.
Well, and torture. He has to torture them in order to get the information on where, like, their settlement is and where they took Ellie. And, like, again, for viewers or first-time viewers, of the TV show, like, they haven't seen this side of Joel, really. They've kind of gotten hints and pieces, here and there, but, like, this was a really big moment, too, for us to see Joel be kind of more of that, see that darker side of him, and also see what he's skilled in. I'm not saying, like, it's a good thing to be skilled in torture, but, like,
it works for Liam Neeson.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's very taken.
He has a very specific set of skills.
Yes.
But No, again, coming into this cold and seeing that one guy begging for his life, like, no, I will tell you whatever you want to know, and then Joel's just like, okay, and I'm just like, wow, that happened.
Yeah,
Mhm.
right.
Well, and he even used like he killed one guy and planted his body so that the other guy would like find him and then he could grab that guy and then
Mhm.
take him. Yeah, like it was so strategic. Like it also not only shows that like Joel is he's able to do these hard things, but like he's also smart. He's
Mhm.
also a very smart guy. He's not just a brute. you know, he
And
pork
we lost
daughter again.
Marlee
Oh,
again.
Marlee.
No.
back?
Oh no.
Yeah, you're
she's
back.
back
Yeah,
now.
you're back.
Okay, that keeps happening. I'm so sorry. My internet, it doesn't like our high definition videos or something.
Yeah. Watching Ellie kill James is very satisfying.
She just like cleaver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cleaver to the noggin.
Well, because to back up a little bit, you at this point, David is like he's trying to convince Ellie to join them, but when he's realizing that that's not going to happen, especially after she breaks his fingers, he comes back and is like, "Okay, well, if you're not going to join us, then you're at least going to be useful to us in another way."
Yeah, he's like, how did
Mhm.
you describe it? Tiny little
And
pieces?
Cannibalism. Great.
I don't think that's a sign of cults.
You sure?
I mean, it could be, but not all cults.
Okay.
It's
But
not part of
yes.
the bite method.
But
That's-
Ellie had
That's
to
just horrifying, though. These poor people have no clue what they're eating.
No, they
And
think
they're
it's just a
literally-
deer.
They're literally eating someone from their colony that they probably recently killed. Because
You know what? I'm way
like
more
that poor
horrified.
girl is like eating her father.
I'm way more
Yeah.
horrified by the child bridey creepiness than I am. I mean, do what you got to
It's
do.
all mortifying, okay?
Oh, totally.
All of it.
Well, and like Ellie has to like in a very split moment make a smart move, and she does that in when they're trying to pull her and put her on the chopping
Mhm.
block.
Literal. chopping
Yes,
block.
literally that she's like, I got to be able to get out of this. So she in the scuffle, she bites David and she's like, I'm infected and now you are too. And so it really pauses them to be like, oh crap.
Mhm.
And then that's how she's able to actually get away. Because if not, I don't think Ellie would have survived that.
Is that more or less out of the game as well? That
Oh yeah.
Yep.
well, the
Oh, yeah.
biting David to get out because I'm infected and having him go, oh,
Oh yeah. That's
Okay.
straight out of it. Yeah, that whole scene, like I said, like 99%. And that 1% is maybe like a few dialogue things they changed.
interesting, cool.
So yeah, and then that's the moment where she runs in, as we talked about, she runs into the restaurant and she's trying to avoid David and oh gosh.
When she
He jumps on her and then she is able to eventually wrestle with him and she doesn't stop stabbing.
Well, it
No.
was so creepy. They just did a little part where he like reaches for his belt.
Right?
Yeah.
That wasn't in the game, I don't think.
I don't think it was either, but I think it added another level of just this
His sick mind. He was saying how
horrifyingness of it.
he was enjoying her fear. It was
Yeah.
like turning him on, which is just again,
And then she just murders the crap out of him, and you don't feel bad.
and she gets
No.
splattered in blood.
I didn't feel bad, but there was a part of me just like, she's not stopping. And it reminded me of Joel with the cop in the first episode, where he just kept punching, except she's got a knife and she's just like, nope, I'm just going to keep stabbing you
Yeah.
So
and not stop.
yeah. So she runs out of the building because it's on fire. That they did that too. And she runs right into the arms of Joel. And the interesting thing is like in the game, you already know that. I mean, I guess you do kind of see it. Joel is trying to make his way to her. He's trying to find her. And that does happen in the game. It kind of switches between the two. And so you see Joel and it's very snowy. It's like a whiteout in the game. And so it's really hard to like see people. And so that was also an interesting aspect. But he actually meets up with her in the restaurant and pulls her off of David's body and stops her from like, because she's stabbing and stabbing and stabbing, and he pulls her off and holds her and is like, it's okay. But I guess for the show, what I heard on the Last of Us podcast, they said it didn't totally make sense for Joel to be like in that burning building. It made sense in the game, but like in that moment, like it made more sense to have their kind of reunion outside. And
Well,
so
then you get,
what does he say to her?
the whole,
Baby girl.
yeah, it's gonna be okay, baby girl, and you just melt.
And when I heard it, I was like, did he just say what I thought he said?
Yes, he
And
did.
I had to go back and go, oh, he did.
He said the thing.
He said the thing. And it was like, oh, Joel's softening up a little bit.
Well, and then, I mean, not to jump at, but you get into the first parts of episode 9.
No, let's get into episode 9.
And you see pretty much, not pretty, but like their roles reverse, where Joel is trying to engage. Joel is trying to be light. And Ellie's just been through this thing where she can't engage. She is trauma.
Yeah, she's totally PTSD at this point.
Yeah.
She's not even hearing half the things Joel's saying. She's just like,
Joel's
And
trying
just
to talk to her about
completely
learning
spaced
guitar.
Mhm.
Joel's trying to be like, have you played this game? And she
And she's
just
kind of in a fugue state, just like I can keep walking, I can keep doing basic functions, but the attention is not there. I'm just on complete autopilot.
yeah.
Well, and then so episode 9 is called Look for the Light, which is a nice little like capstone, kind of bookends of the series, because the first episode is When You're Lost in the Darkness, and then the last episode is Look for the Light, which is kind of like the theme that they made for the show. And so I thought that was really cool how they chose to like bookend it that way.
Yeah, that is cute.
But yes, I really like, this is another thing so that they added new for the show, and that is this entire story of Anna and her who plays so she's in the show, she's Ellie's mom, which again, fun fact if you didn't know, the actress is Ashley Johnson, who plays Ellie in the video game. And it's so interesting because her voice is like the exact same as Ellie. So when she was like talking, I'm like, Ellie? But Troy Baker, he has such range with his voice acting that like when he talks, I couldn't hear Joel. Because he kind of like has to like deepen his voice and make it a little more like text and drawl. Not like that. I'm not a voice actor. But he does that for Joel's character. So Troy Baker in real life sounds completely different than Joel. So yes, Ashley Johnson, we finally get to kind of get this missing piece of maybe why Ellie is immune. Do you want to explain? I feel like I'm doing a lot of the talking. I'm sorry, you guys.
We know that you're passionate about it. We enjoy hearing your perspective.
Indeed.
Well, you see a pregnant woman running through a forest, comes upon a house, tries to block all the entrances off because she's obviously being chased. And she goes upstairs, but the clicker gets in, and in this whole fight against the clicker where she's on the ground but is able to stab
and giving
her
birth
struggle, she gives birth. Which is just, I don't know if that's physiologically a thing, but I mean, it would make sense if you're
adrenaline will do things to you.
Yeah, that's true.
If you've got a clicker freaking chasing you down, like,
and crawling at you, that was freaky.
I mean, as the only one who's given birth here, I don't know.
Okay, anyways, continue, Steph.
But so she does finally kill the clicker with a knife in the throat. And then she cuts the baby's cord with the knife that's been in the clicker.
Which happens to be the knife that Ellie now carries around.
Yeah.
But it's also interesting too, because you find that the clicker had bit the Anna, the mom's leg, before the cord was cut too.
Yeah,
So
but
it's
I
like,
don't
was
think
it the knife or was it the bite? Because I've read
I don't
like,
think the
Why
blood
not
can
both?
circulate that quickly to get into from the
well,
leg
I-
But
because
how long
if
did it take her to cut the cord after? Because it wasn't like she killed the clicker and then it took her a couple of minutes, or not a couple of minutes, it took her a few moments to calm down enough to realize I just had a baby. Because she kills the clicker's off on the side, and she,
well, the baby's like on the ground, so
right,
she
but
kind
she
of is
looks
blood
like,
would
down.
have to go through the leg, back up the leg, through the circulatory system into the heart, then back out of the heart, then into the placenta. Like
It
that's a
could
big
happen.
journey.
It
I mean,
takes a long time to and especially since the like it's supposed to it all happens with like the
in the
cordyceps,
brain.
right?
In the brain, yeah.
And so like at that point there's nothing that's like even touched her brain stem to like even cause like mutation necessarily at that
Well,
point.
I
Like
guess hearing what you were saying about the knife stuff, you're the first person I've heard say anything about that. Everyone
Oh.
else that has talked about it has talked about the bite in her leg and her not cutting the cord, the umbilical
but
cord
because
until after. So no, it makes sense that it's the knife, but I'm telling you, no one is talking about that.
well, and it I also think it's that because Marlene, when she talks to Marlene, she's like, I cut the cord before I
Well,
killed the clicker.
No,
Yeah.
she said
no,
before I
she
got
was
bit.
asking before she got bit.
He said
And she lied.
Yes.
Yes, I know she lied, but I think that has part to do with it, where she's saying she cut the cord and then killed it, but still she has the clicker or whatever in the and cut the
Yeah,
placenta.
no, she was
Or
asking about the
cord
bite
connected to the
though.
placenta.
Yeah, no, but
Mm.
Marlene was asking about the bite in that moment.
But that
No,
also brings up something else, is that we now see how Marlene and Ellie started off.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
were they were friends for a really long time.
which like adds a lot of sadness to their story, or I guess conviction to Marlene's story. It's all a jumble of
well,
nuance.
she had to kill her friend, you
Yeah.
know?
Mhm.
So she turned around and she didn't hesitate that long either. But they
Which-
also had to get going. Like I understand like the urgency and everything. And also the more you think about it, the harder it is to do. So I think she was just like, I have to do it. I have to do
And
it.
The
if
look on
I
her face
was
coming out of the room versus going back in the room, handing Ellie off to goon number 2, and sorry, I did not mean to do that while you were drinking, but handing Ellie off to goon number 2, and then this has to get done, and then the look of just complete resolve when everybody's like, this has to get done, and just trying to take as much emotion out of it for her as she could, because she just killed her best friend.
Well, and again, things that you don't think about until you watch creepy shows like this. But if I were to be shot by my friend, I wouldn't want to think it was coming. And so I almost think that's a mercy thing that Marlene did, where she's like, I can't kill you, but she knows she has to. So she goes
Yeah.
back and
Yeah.
does it, not
Quickly.
letting her be scared about it.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. So not even for Marlene's sake, who's holding the gun, but Anna's on the receiving end for
Yeah.
sure. For sure. But so just like even just showing that entire scene was just a really, again, another way that and I really appreciate that Neil Druckmann was so involved with making the TV show. Because this is his baby. This video game and story is his baby. And so for him to be involved with the TV show and being able to be there for the conversations of what they can do differently and to make better, like I like that he was like, you know what, there's this missing piece that we didn't cover in the games. Let's do it now. And so it was a really, really nice perspective to be able to see.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so we're in Salt Lake City now.
Salt Lake City.
Which I am in Salt Lake City like every single day. It's where my job is. And
it's so funny. At
oh my
one point,
gosh.
they show a sign, Salt Lake City and Reno, like a freeway sign, which is accurate. But the mountains they showed behind it, first of all, I'm like, where would this be that sign would be in correlation for the East Mountains to it? I don't think there's And it's also very clearly not the Rockies. It's not
No.
Utah mountains. It is
No.
Canada mountains for sure.
Well, and even the whole skyline, the building skyline. I was actually having a lot of fun because I'm like, it's that building, that building, that building. Oh, that's that building.
Yeah, the
And,
Grand
like,
America was
pointing
in it,
out.
and I worked there a few years ago.
Yeah,
like,
they had a
hey.
few hotels. They had a few of the buildings on Temple Square, which
Mhm.
I thought was really interesting how because it was obviously a rendering. It wasn't like, it was obviously digital, but like, why did they choose to like one of the most iconic architecture
Oh no.
Oh, Marlee, come back.
It's the Salt Lake Temple.
Yep.
And they didn't include it.
Which is in the shot. But
No,
the
it's-
Gosh,
problem,
dang it.
it is.
It
is in the shot.
What?
It
is in the shot.
temple, the way
It's
it looks
it's
right
under
now.
scaffolding.
Oh.
Exactly. And it's the thing. It's the scaffolding, the way it looks now, as opposed to rendering it either pre-construction or post-apocalyptic even. But it's it's the current look of the temple.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice because this is set in 2023, like The Last of Us is. So it's accurate to now.
Well,
it's
but not
accurate
to what would it been after
in 2003 when the world turned in 2003. Right. The temple did not look like that, but it's such like an iconic architecture in the Salt Lake City skyline that it was really interesting that they chose not to portray what it normally looks like, especially because they did it in the game. You see the Salt Lake City temple. I mean, it's facing the wrong way.
Yeah, this is the game.
Yeah, it's facing the wrong way, but I
actually think this is supposed to be the Sandlot field as well.
Interesting.
Because that's in Salt Lake.
Or someone so one of our friends of the podcast, Larry Curtis, he's been on Age of Geek before, and he actually works in the building that like had to have been right there where Joel and Ellie were looking out because they're jelly. Because Larry, after this episode aired, he posted a photo from that like same area, like showing like, this is what I see. This is what it really looks like nowadays. And here's what it was in the show. So it was a really cool side-by-side comparison.
Did he have a giraffe in his picture?
No, but someone else commented, that photo. Thanks, Collin, for grabbing that.
Oh yeah.
Because someone else commented and said, oh, maybe they wanted to show the baseball field or kind of sports,
They paid paradise and put up a parking lot.
It's probably like a soccer field as well, but they said it could have been West High, which is a few blocks to the north.
Would make sense.
Which is only a few blocks north. But yeah, so a lot of the buildings are actually pretty accurate. There's a few of them that are in there that you're like, that doesn't exist.
I mean, they couldn't do a full scale for scale.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't in the game either. So
it is exciting. It's exciting in the game and it's exciting in the show because we're all in Utah and we're like, hey, that's where we are. That's us. Yeah. And like St. Mary's, there's a hospital where my husband was born called St. Mark's.
Okay, so hospital. Okay, so this is finally the moment where Joel and Ellie, they know that they need to get to this hospital because that's the final clue they find. Like, that's the clue they finally received about where the Fireflies have gone. And they're trying to find it. They're walking around. They're having a good time. Ellie is finally opening up, especially after coming across those wild giraffes, which happens in the game, and it's amazing and wonderful. It's just like a nice moment to breathe, as well as to just kind of show, I don't know, like maybe a little bit of like an innocence, but also just like kind of maybe bring Ellie back to reality a little bit more and help her loosen up. Because you notice after that their conversation gets a little bit more open, and even Joel opens up to her about his own mental health struggles and how, it's revealed that his scar on the side of his head was from a suicide attempt that he had made after Sarah died.
Which wasn't in the game.
No.
No.
But it was definitely an interesting piece to add. Again, showing his own mental health struggle and journey
His,
to the grief.
When you're in the darkness, look for the light, as it were. Yeah, the giraffes is such a sweet moment. It is literally healing for Ellie to have just a little bit of magic in this dark and twisty world. And then they get to
They get ambushed.
the wake of that. Well, in the wake of that, they get to then dive a little bit deeper into their relationship to each other and kind of get deeper and more personal.
Well, and by doing that, they're showing to each other that, like, hey, I do care about you and I do love you, but I'm not going to say those words.
Right. Yeah.
But then they're walking along, and then they get ambushed by the fireflies, and Joel wakes up in the hospital
without Ellie,
but Marlene is there. And Marlene is like, yeah, we're prepping Ellie for surgery. You can't see her. Leave. You're done. Like, thank you for bringing her, but we've got
Your
it
job
from
is
here.
done.
Well,
your job is done.
He's realizing the cordyceps are in the brain. The only way to get to them is to remove her brain. And he's realizing what that means for Ellie. Because
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I think they were both under the illusion that it'd be something that she'd survive from.
Yeah, I was one of those people who was like,
a simple procedure.
Yeah,
well, and you would think they would take blood and test them. Like, you would think they would do some of the basic things first, especially if Ellie was born from this, not from like anything in the brain. Like, it would have been something transferred by blood or something.
Yeah, she doesn't have the standard infection, so to speak.
Yeah.
She's lived with this for 12 years or however many years old
14.
she is. 14 years. And where was the lab work?
Yeah.
So to just go into, hey, let's dissect her brain and see what we can find in here, and hopefully we'll find something, but we may not. And then you're ruining like the chance of getting enough blood samples down the road because, well, what if it wasn't the brain?
Oops.
Well, it kind of makes it sound like she's disposable.
Well, it's the classic trolley scenario. Do you kill the one person and save everybody?
Save everyone.
Or do you keep it as it is to save the one person? And the biggest element that's going to make you decide that is who is the one person. And it's Ellie. And they dive into this conundrum more in part 2. Again, not to have any spoilers, but what it would have meant to have Ellie be a cure, or to be able to have a starting point for a cure, and how that could have changed humanity, and how these doctors don't think they were doing anything wrong by disposing of Ellie. They probably thought of her as not a volunteer. I think they knew she wasn't
she's a resource,
complicit, but she's a resource, and grateful to have somebody that they could have a jumping off point. Grateful that they have some idea of a little light spark of what a cure is, and that's going to justify the means in the end. So you can see this whole moral dilemma where the cure would save so many people. But who would sacrifice their child for that? For the idea, for the experiment of it all.
Well, especially when Marlene has already, had to kill her mother.
Yeah.
And her mother trusted her daughter with her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so to go through those moments of I don't care, it's happening, like, this is what we got to do. I mean, again, she's just treated like some kind of cargo or resource. It's not that she's a human being.
Yeah, Marlene's about the cause. It's not about the person.
Well, and like this whole
she probably looks at herself as a resource in that way too, actually.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Well, and this whole My throat is getting dry and this water is not helping, but this whole hospital scene is about the power of choice as well. Not only are they like trying to do something for the greater good and seeing Ellie as an awesome resource, but also they didn't really give her the choice. They didn't really fully tell her what to expect. She probably thought she was just going under anesthesia and coming back. Like they were going to do a procedure, something simple, maybe get a sample, I don't know, and then she'd be back and everything would be fine.
They made a point to say that she wasn't scared when she went under.
Yeah.
Which, again,
which brings that, it's such a point. Yeah. It's just another thing with this whole moral dilemma, because it's not even just the choices that Joel's about to make, but it's also the choice that was taken away from Ellie. And then again, even further, the choice being taken away from Ellie as Joel makes his choices to save her. And we see Joel go into like this full on like SWAT mode, which was like, again, there he is. And like, it was really amazing to see in the show, finally, to see Joel handle a gun a little bit more. Because up until this point in the game, you've killed so many nameless, faceless enemies. And so to finally like go through these motions and see him do it, at the beginning of this episode, both me and my husband were, this sounds so bad, but we're like, if we don't see Joel kill at least 20 people in this episode, we're done with this show. Like, how terrible is that to say?
Yeah, I wouldn't admit that on a public podcast.
Right.
Oh, I did. I just
did. As soon as they were in the stairs scene, and as he's about to take him out, and he says something, I can't remember what it was, but he says it in his lower register, and I was just like, oh, Mandalorian's here.
Yes. Oh my goodness. But yes, I also thought it was an interesting choice of music that they played in the background while he was going through this whole sequence of killing everybody in his path. It was very like somber music. And it was like, because I think it was supposed to, I think the whole purpose of it was like, it's supposed to help, like, we're supposed to feel sad, you know, like it is a sad moment. And it's so I thought that was kind of interesting, rather than have like, I don't know, pump up action music or something, or cool, like I'm a SWAT team member or whatever. Like it was completely the opposite.
Well, I think you've hit the nail on the head a few times. Most of the times it's nameless, faceless people. And this is showing, the different medium is showing that that's never the case. That's not the case when Joel, and you see the same thing in superhero movies when Superman destroys all of Metropolis and to kill Zod. How many people died in his destruction of the city? But he's doing it to anyways. So yeah, they're trying to show you it's not nameless, faceless. And I actually think that's probably a really, Neil Druckmann did this on purpose, because again, part 2 is literally a story about how it's not just a nameless, faceless person that was killed. Yep. So I think it is prepping you. And so this different medium, it just adds intensity to the fact that we're viewing everybody.
Oh man. And then
in the midst of, you know, him going through and killing everyone, you get to the surgical room and immediately goes and kills the doctor. This is probably the only brain surgeon that is left at this point.
That they know of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they're like, not exactly dime a dozen.
Yeah. How many are there going to be that have that specialty now? Like,
one line.
Yeah. And possibly just none. And so the level of research that can be done at this point is very, very swindled.
Yeah.
And so any hope for a cure, just based on that choice alone is potentially gone as well.
Well, and all the more reason for Joel to, for saying this plainly and succinctly, it's his way of eliminating that obstacle and eliminating that opportunity to ever come back.
Yeah.
Which I don't agree with necessarily. Like, I mean, no, he shouldn't have just killed all these people. But should he have saved Ellie? Yes. I really want him to have saved her, you know?
It's not a black and white question. It's not a yes or no.
For somebody coming into this from not having played the game, those last few scenes of this episode, the hospital of Joel realizing what's going on, Ellie's lack of choice, Marlene's choices that have led to all of this, is like, for me, there was a lot of what is about to happen here, what's going on. They can't do that without killing Ellie. Well, that doesn't work, because I know that there's a Last of Us 2, and I know that she's in it, and so there were so many questions I had going through this, just like, it was just like, I've just got to take it all in to see what's going to happen, because it's like Joel's killing everybody he can find, and that's a lot of
For
people.
all you know, it could have been Last of Us 2, The Cure.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was just like, where does this go? And it's like, well, that's Joel's making some choices. Marlene made some choices. Ellie doesn't get to make choices. Well, okay, here we are.
It's all about the power of choice. I'm telling you.
And it was interesting because I didn't have the foreknowledge that you had of what is about to happen as Joel wakes up in the hospital. So for me, it's like, it was, Joel wakes up in the hospital, Ellie's there, they'll draw some blood, sunshine, rainbows, unicorns, everything will be happy. Yeah, that was so not what I got. And I was just like, wow, I can never watch TV again.
Yeah, for real.
No, you can't, like, this show, like, you can't trust
anything. And the thing is, since they were the whole show for the 8 episodes before that, they've been building up trust of some level, and all of a sudden they just went, yeah, all of that just forget that.
So obviously Joel gets Ellie out. Ellie wakes up in a hospital gown and says, what happened? And Joel flat out lies to her.
Very well, too. He's a good liar.
But I think she knows. She knows from the beginning that this is not how this ended. This would
I don't
not
know if she
be.
knew at the beginning. I think that she came to it between the conversation in the truck and getting back to Jackson.
Yeah.
I think that she started piecing things together over however long it took to make that trip, of going, this just doesn't seem to add up for some reason. And I think that she also had I was going to do something, and for whatever reason it didn't happen. And none of these things together, 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4.
Well, I think if anything, she wakes up definitely on shaky ground, because where did this car come from? Why doesn't she have clothes? So I don't think she totally trusts Joel or what's going on in that moment, because
it's very confusing for sure.
She's confused. This would not be what happened if things went according to plans. So I think she knows something is up for damn sure.
Well, and also, like, she even asks him, she's like, tell me again what happened.
And then she's like, bam, on the spot with a story.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And he does it, like, his reasoning is because he wants to protect what he's now feeling with Ellie and this relationship. And I don't ever view it as such, like, Ellie has replaced Sarah. I think it's that familiar feeling that he had with Sarah, with his actual daughter, and finding it in someone new, and being able to still be like, you know what, I can still be a father figure, because, like, I am still a father, even though I lost my daughter 20 years ago. I am still that person. even though I've done some bad things, but I'm still that person. And then he sees it in his relationship with Ellie.
Well, I read something, and I wish I could remember where to cite the source. They're saying that Joel realized something in the hospital when he realized what was happening with Ellie, that Joel has lost so much he literally cannot lose Ellie at this point.
Yeah.
He cannot allow himself to lose again.
Yeah.
And he does everything in his power, which turns out to be a lot, to not lose again, not realizing what it's costing him, what
Yeah.
it will cost him.
And
Yeah.
I watched an interview with Bella, and she talks about how when she knows that even at the end where she's like, promise me everything you said is true, and he says it is, she knows that he's not telling the truth. She knows deep down that and Joel, in doing this and saving her life, has taken away her purpose. And that's
Mhm.
going to be explored in season 2 so much, is where does she go now that her purpose to save people was not taken away from her without her consent. Again, it's all these things happening to her that she does.
Oh, it's apparently Steph's turn now.
Oh no, it's not me.
Oh no, did you?
You're back.
You're back. It's okay.
You're back.
Yeah, everything's happening to her, and she doesn't have control over her own life, and that causes so much friction. I mean, we even see that this day and age with teenagers and whatnot, they want to have control over their lives, and the stakes are definitely not as high.
Well, and again, just back to my whole thing about the power of choice being a huge, huge theme in the end of this story, but it's also about the consequences of those choices and how they don't just affect you, they affect other people. Joel's choices, Marlene's choices, all affected Ellie. And even like Ellie not being able to choose, it still like affected everybody around her. It affected Joel. I mean, because they didn't even let Joel go and like see her before her surgery.
Yeah.
They were just like, no, we took that power and that choice away from you. And so again, consequences. And it's just all that was all what happened.
Well, I think if he did get that chance and got to understanding what was going to happen, I don't think it would have changed much.
He still would have stopped it. He still would have tried to stop it
when it was happening, but
you mean he would have still tried to stop it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because again, Joel couldn't lose anymore at that point.
Yeah, but again, someone took that choice away from Joel. So someone took a choice away from Ellie, and someone took the choice away from Joel. And it's about them trying to then take it back and figure stuff out. And part 2, again, that's more, more explored later on. What, again, some of those consequences mean and whatnot. But it just, again, this episode, and even just the whole, like the game and the whole ending of this story it's not an easy ending.
Oh, no.
My coworker who hasn't played the game but really enjoyed the show, she's like, what was that cliffhanger at the end? Like, she was so mad. She's like, there's supposed to be more. And I'm like, oh, don't you worry.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you, Robert, as someone who doesn't know what's coming next. What do you want to see in season 2?
I honestly don't know what I want to. I mean, I want to see. Let me go back. Not knowing how Joel and Ellie separate in whatever form that takes, whether Joel dies, whether Ellie's just like, well, I'm out, whatever it is. I'm curious to see how that develops. Does anything that Ellie learned from her time with Joel carry over? Does she, think about Joel? Does he weigh on her mind, good or bad? Because taking the choice, having gotten her from Boston to Salt Lake City, having built that relationship and that bond, and then breaking that trust, what is Joel to her now? Does she spend any time trying to get to know Tommy and Maria in Jackson? Does she even go into Jackson? Where does she go? How does she live her life post Salt Lake City? So it's an open book for me. It could be anything, and I don't know what to expect, but this is one of those rare instances of I don't know what's coming. It's a pop culture thing that I don't know enough about to have predetermined ideas, and I enjoy that blindness because I can come into it without the preconception of it was done this way in the game, or if there's a novelization of it this way in the book, and I can just kind of go, nope, I'm just going to wait and see what happens when it unfolds episode by episode.
You
Oh, I was
should.
gonna say we could get
should.
you a copy of Last of Us 2, and you could.
I would have to have a PlayStation to play it.
Oh, there we go.
I mean, if you want to give me a PlayStation, I mean, I'm not going to say no, but
I'm like a PS4 I might have sitting around somewhere. Oh man.
I am curious because part 2 is a lot. Like
I think they said they're going to make it 2 seasons.
Yeah, that's what
at
I was
least
wondering.
2. They said it's more than 1, but they're not saying how many.
Because without going into like a ton of detail, you're following 2 different people.
Okay.
In this next portion, and so I'm assuming they're going to have like part of the season following one person, part of it following another.
I could see it being season 1, season 2, and then more.
Yeah.
And whoever they get to play Ellie's counterpart, they have to have no social media following. This person in the game was already so bullied. So the idea of making her in this TV show, I am worried for her.
Yeah.
Which
Trolls.
Which she had that the voice actress had a secret cameo in The Last of Us. Did you guys hear about that?
No. Who was
Laura Bailey?
Yes, she was a nurse.
She was one of the nurses.
Ah.
But you would never know because she has a mask. But they confirmed it that was exciting. Laura Bailey.
Interesting.
So yeah, she's a voice actor for a very prominent character in
We need to stop teasing.
We need to stop talking about part 2. I'm just gonna go play it again for the 3rd time. It's fine.
I really enjoyed the series. Neil Druckmann and
Craig Mazin.
Craig Mazin did such a good job with it. Bella Ramsey. I love Pedro Pascal. I think he was phenomenal.
Internet daddy.
Bella Ramsey, I think, stole the show for me.
100%.
Their performance was just so good.
Their chemistry is just phenomenal together. Like on screen and off, they just click so well.
The range is insane. You laughed at times. You cried probably more than you laughed. It really is about humanity, and the grayness of life in these harsh situations. So.
I think overall, I really, really enjoyed this show. I mean, I would recommend it to anyone, gamers, non-gamers, whoever. Like I think in the beginning, because this game is so near and dear to my heart, and I know the story and what was going to happen, I definitely was nervous throughout because I didn't know how they were going to play it out through 9 episodes. But after the end and just being able to look back on everything and talk about it here with you guys, I have come to really appreciate everything that they did with this show, even the changes that they
satisfied with it?
I think so.
I'll never be satisfied.
I think enough.
My name is Angelica Schuyler. Sorry.
Oh gosh. I think I was satisfied enough again that I would recommend it. I would rewatch it.
Okay, that was gonna be my next question. Would you rewatch it?
I would rewatch it. I also I'm really kind of itching to play Last of Us Part 2 again because I want to, because the story in my brain, it needs to continue and I can't just stop it right here where it is. I need to see it continue even though I know what happens. So it's just, I feel unsatisfied in that regard though, is because I know there's so much more to the story that a lot of people are missing out on because they haven't played the game. But I was so excited that they announced that there would be a season 2 and that they were going to, use part 2. Like they were going to adapt it. And then is like, yeah, let's do it. And he's already teased it. He's already gone on his Instagram and teased it. He's a sneaky little minx, is what he is. Anyways, I've done so much talking. What else? I know this episode's really long, but do you guys have any other final thoughts you want to share?
I appreciated being surprised, but like I said, not having played the game, it was all new to me, and I appreciated, at least in retrospect, being surprised by so many things. The way that the relationship between Joel and Ellie formed over the course of their journey, over the way that you came to care about people, and they took that away from you in various ways, as Henry and Sam, for example, Tess, Tommy and Maria, even though their removal from the series wasn't permanent, so to speak, you just left them behind. David and his all of his issues, and there were so many of those. Everything they did in this show was different looks at aspects of how people react in the wake of an apocalypse, and being given a glimmer of hope, and what does that mean, and what becomes of that. I think that they did if the game portrayed drawing you in to the story and the relationships a fraction of as much as it did in the TV show, then I can only envy you for having had that however many years ago when you first came upon The Last of Us, as opposed to those of us who are just getting it now and going, oh, well, this was a game so many years ago. What is it? Let's see what this is about. Oh my goodness. But it was a journey. It was not an easy journey to make, but it was a journey worth taking.
Yes. Collin?
I mean, Robert said it really well. The show was just phenomenal. Every aspect of it, the way that it stayed so true to the game adaptation was just insane to see, because we haven't really seen an adaptation that was really truly like shot for shot and
line for line.
Yeah, it was just incredible to see how they went about putting everything together. So,
and now that you see a game adaptation can be like that, it gives you some hope for some of the future game adaptations.
It does give you hope, but it's a really high bar.
I was going to say that.
Much higher bar than it has been in the past.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I think we need to do another video game adaptations panel for FanX coming up.
There's supposed to be a lot coming.
Oh, yeah. And because we had one.
And we can roast Liam Hemsworth.
Oh, my gosh. Because, we had one last FanX convention, and we just pooped on Tom Holland and Uncharted pretty much the whole time. But now we can have something a little bit more positive to talk about. And that is the Last of Us adaptation, and maybe others that are going to be coming out in the meantime. I don't know.
Super Mario Brothers, schedule. Anybody?
Yes.
Mario.
My son is so excited for that movie.
So was my daughter.
He's literally been asking every couple weeks, can we go see Mario now? No, bud, it's not out yet.
It's not out
yet.
Not
how movies work.
He's 4, so he doesn't even understand time. He's just like, well, what about now?
He's so cute. Oh my goodness. Oh, okay, you guys. Well, thanks for sticking with us for a couple of longer episodes. I hope it wasn't too awful to hear us just talk about this awesome TV show. Or maybe it was great and you loved us. And we have other episodes coming out with other topics. We do all sorts of pop culture and geek related things. If you guys have any topics that you want us to talk about or cover, You can let us know by reaching out to us on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram at Age of Geek. And we also have a Discord that you can join. For those listening, it's discord.ageofgeek.com. Or if you're watching the video, it's scrolling along the bottom of the screen right now.
You forgot to put the https://discord.ageofgeek.com.
You'll still get there the other way. I've tried it. I've tested it. But yes, thank you guys for listening, and thanks for having this awesome chat. I'm so excited that we got to talk so much about this show. Oh, so great. So great. So yeah.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Thanks.
Bye. Don't get infected.
Bye.
See you later.
The fungus among us.
The fungus among us.
Too
fungi.
fast.
Too fungi. Too furious.
So bad.
This has been an Age of Geek media production.